Let's now cross over to the Information Ministry, where currently there is the coordinated mechanism event on safety of journalists. And currently you can see the Executive Secretary of the National Media Commission, George Sapon, addressing the people.
Africa. There are military insurrections, we had rebellion all over, there's war in Sierra Leone, there's war in Liberia, we had crisis almost everywhere, in Guinea, in Chad, everywhere on the continent. And I recall that I did a story predicting that there was going to be a coup d'etat in Cote d'Ivoire, and then this was a period when there had not been any coup in Cote d'Ivoire, and so it sounded very strange. When the coup happened, I was declared a persona non grata in Cote d'Ivoire. I couldn't enter that country for a number of years. What was significant about that moment was also that the very day that the coup happened, my wife and then my 2-year-old child were in Boaké. So they left the very day the coup happened. That was just pure coincidence. Somehow, when the authorities became aware that my wife was in Cote d'Ivoire and had left the day the crisis started, and the crisis started from Boaké, it became more interesting to them to look for me. Honorable Minister, ladies and gentlemen, I also want to recall an incident in Burkina Faso where we had organized, they had killed a very important journalist called Norbert Zongo. And Professor Kwame Karikari, at the time, with great courage, had put together the Media Foundation for West Africa in order to contain the emerging crisis around West Africa in defense of journalists. So the professor said we should hold a big festival in honor of Norbert Zongo. The security forces allowed those of us who were flying to fly into Burkina Faso. They blocked Professor Kwame Karikari on the border. Prof was traveling with a colleague of ours from the Media Foundation called Kafui. So Kafui and the Prof could not reach Burkina. But for those of us who landed, they had encircled us. We were dropped in and there was very little defense. But those were the moments that I also saw the courage of people like Professor Emerita Techua Menu and some of her colleagues. Our safety depended on that moment, on the courage of people like Professor Techua, Justice Alidu, Aliontine, and a few others. Honorable Minister, why do I take you on this long journey? I do this only to illustrate a point that throughout the history of this continent, anytime there is danger about the safety of journalists, that danger is coming from governments, primarily. And so when we come into Ghana of today, when it is the government, it is the Minister for Information who is leading the charge for the protection of journalists, for the safety of journalists, it is as unusual as it is progressive, innovative, and forward-looking. And I think we should put this on record. We do not know of any country where the government itself decides that I want to make priority the question of the safety of journalists. What we know is that governments tend to be very defensive when questions of free expression are raised. And so we are particularly happy for this movement. I would want to conclude by just saying that our meeting here is the art of the possible, because it follows a long series of consultations and dialogue that the Honorable Minister facilitated. The project on the safety of journalists had emanated from them, and then they handed it over to the National Media Commission because, in their review and consistent with our belief, the Constitution had entrusted the Commission with the big responsibility of promoting the freedom and independence of the media. We want to thank the ministry We want to thank our colleagues in the GJA, Primpag, Giba, UNESCO Ghana office is here. And we can tell ourselves together to say, together we made it. But let me now come finally to the police. Commissioner and the Kofi, we do not take it lightly that you come today and you come with colleagues from the Ghana Police Service. For those who are not aware, today they are going to see how behind the scenes you have worked tirelessly in pursuit of those who attack journalists to establish the truth and to help us create a mechanism that protects all of us into the future. It is my hope that as you come to give us this information, it will strengthen our collective resolve to do more, but it will also provide us with the facts on the ground with which we can work. On that note, I want to thank all of you for giving me this opportunity. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Mr. George Sapong. And our next speaker, you are billed for 5 minutes. I'll hold you to the 5 minutes. I made an exception because of my own personal biases. When George Sapong speaks, I want to listen and listen. Because I've come to acknowledge, even beyond the shores of Ghana, how much he is helping the world in terms of these matters. So we have the right people in this room. Let's now welcome for remarks from the Ministry of Information, and giving the remarks on behalf of the Chief Director is the head of the PPBME, Mauli Segbafia. Mauli.
Good morning, everyone gathered here. On behalf of my Chief Director, who would have loved to be here with us this morning, I deliver a speech on her behalf. And so any word I say is actually coming from my Chief Director. I am only a servant here to deliver what she has put together. So the chairperson of the National Media Commission, the Director General of the Criminal Investigation Department, the representative of the Chief Justice, the Secretary General, the Ghana Commission for UNESCO, and I mean the rep, the presidents of the media associations, the Executive Secretary of the Media Foundation for West Africa, all our invited participants, our dear media personnel, distinguished ladies and gentlemen, good morning. So like I said, this is coming from my Chief Director. Let me also add my voice in welcoming you to this important forum, which seeks to bring together all the stakeholders to account to the general public how we have fared as a nation in implementing the framework for protecting journalists in our country. To begin with, let's acknowledge the progress we have made as a nation in strengthening the foundations of our democratic society, notably within the realm of our media. We have worked towards creating a more open media landscape, witnessing the proliferation of television, radio, newspapers, and several online portals, we have also repealed the criminal libel laws and in recent times enacted the right to information law in our commitment to combating public corruption and ensuring free speech as well as universal access to freedom and justice. Despite our progress, journalists still face challenges and threats in the course of their work, raising concerns about their safety. I cited the data from UNESCO on this matter, and the statistics are alarming. From 2010 to 2020, nearly 1,200 journalists lost their lives globally. In 2022 alone, 86 journalists and media workers were killed, underscoring the risks they face. And here we want to see that Ghana has not been immune to some of these statistics. So, in response to this, the National Media Commission, working with the ministry and other stakeholders, inaugurated the Office of the Coordinated Mechanism for the Safety of Journalists in May 2021. This initiative, which forms part of the broader media support programs of the ministry, seeks to ensure that the office utilizes what we call the UNESCO's framework to foster a vibrant media landscape, uphold press freedom, and align with the SDG 16. The UNESCO's framework, endorsed by the UN, encourages us to use a multi-stakeholder approach to comprehensively address what we call the 3 Ps, i.e., prevent violence against journalists, protect journalists in danger, and prosecute the perpetrators. In line with this, the office established serves as an accessible platform for journalists to report incidents, seek protection, and pursue justice in cases of intimidation and harassment. And we must say that the office was quite successful in providing a well-coordinated resolution to the cases involving Caleb and Zoe of City FM and TV against the National Security Ministry. Ladies and gentlemen, please pay close attention as I outline the foundational pillars that constitute this UNESCO's framework. They include the following. Under Pillar 1, broadly called the advocacy pillar, which includes conducting public education to emphasize the importance of a safe and responsible media environment in Ghana. We also have Pillar 2, involving generally investigation, having a mechanism in place for validating attacks and threats. Under Pillar 3 is called the intervention to prevent attacks on journalists, ensuring their protection and pursuing legal action against those involved in such incidents. Pillar 4, I believe that is why we are here, accountability and publication on safety of journalists. As we are all aware, various activities have been implemented under the pillars mentioned above. For example, under advocacy, the National Media Commission has been involved in training and awareness creation. Other stakeholders, such as the GJA and many others, have always advocated for safety. The ministry has also been at the forefront of advocacy and training. In particular, the ministry, working with the Independent Committee and UNIMAC, initiated a media capacity enhancement program with modules tailored towards some of these specific issues. Ladies and gentlemen, under investigation, on several occasions, the Ministry of Information has drawn attention to alleged attacks on journalists and directly engaged the police to investigate and take appropriate steps. And we must say that it is rare to see a government agency doing this. But because our minister himself is a journalist, so there's always pressure on the ministry to ensure that the proper things are done to journalists. We are gathered here today under the pillar of accountability and state agencies. It is also expected that the maiden report to be published will be ready by the end of January 2024. I am confident that the insights shared and strategies devised during this particular forum will fortify our commitment to the safety of journalists, ultimately reinforcing Ghana's position as a beacon of press freedom. Thank you very much for your attention.
Thank you, Maoli. So once again, those of you who are just joining us, thank you very much for making the time to be here. This is the 2023 Accountability Forum, and the ministries, I don't know if they are comfortable with me saying so, the ministries, coordinated mechanism on the safety of journalists is what we are here to make some assessments on one of the pillars, as already mentioned, creating a conducive environment for the practice of journalism in Ghana, the role of stakeholders. Just joining us now is the president of GIBA. Thank you very much for making the time to join us. Before he came in, I was about to acknowledge Gloria Haji of GIBA, also seated in there. And I was under the impression that you'll be representing the president. So if the CJ is present here in our midst, then it's important that the GIBA should be present in their full force. Thank you very much. We also have in our midst Commissioner of Police, Mr. Paul Manley-Awuni, who is Director General, National Patrol Department. He is leading the delegation from the Ghana Police Service. It also tells you how elevated they take this particular meeting. Not only the police, the judiciary, also key stakeholders, and GIBA represented in the manner we find them. Of course, as for the NMC, they are sort of the engine behind this particular vehicle. So thank you very much, Commissioner Manley-Awuni. We will now hear the remarks, or rather a report of the state of investigations on reported attacks on journalists, and that will be done by the Director General, CID. Okay. So we'll have Commissioner Winnie make some brief comments before she will give us her report. Thank you very much. Please, this way.
Thank you, MC. Mr. Chairman, Honorable Minister of Information, representative of Her Ladyship the Chief Justice, my sister, Commissioner of Police, Faustina Andokofi, distinguished stakeholders, invited guests, ladies and gentlemen. I bring you warm compliments of the Inspector General of Police, who had intended to personally attend this morning's important forum. but was prevented at the 11th hour from doing so by an equally important national assignment. He has directed me to convey to you season's greetings and to wish you a fruitful deliberations. Mr. Chairman, somewhere in June this year, the Ministry of Information wrote to the Ghana Police and requested that we report on all cases of attacks against journalists across the country. We launched an investigation, wrote a report, and sent it to the ministry. Somewhere on 10th August, again this year, they followed up that initial request with an invitation to a meeting at the ministry. And at this meeting, 13 incidents of alleged cases of attacks against journalists were tabled and were to work together to find out how we can protect journalists and ensure their safety, and also to coordinatedly work together, find out how we can resolve those cases, and then finally, generally work together and see how we can prevent such future occurrences. Then after this meeting, as if that wasn't enough, the ministry again, and I'm saying all this to show how the ministry has been very passionate about this matter. Again, they wrote to us on 29th of August. This time, they listed 28 cases of alleged attacks against journalists, and they requested for us to validate these cases. So, on receipt of this latest request, we conducted another investigation across the country and then compiled reports on these cases. We've noticed that the latest request on the 29th of August, the list that they attached was more like a master list for us because it contained the 13 that they earlier submitted to us with some additional number of cases which were initially not indicated. But one thing we noticed is that the list actually was 27 because one name was repeated. But when we conducted our research on the matter, we also unearthed 2 additional cases which were not even in the ministry's list. So this morning, we want to thank the organizers so much for inviting us and giving us this platform to present our reports on these cases. So we'll be actually presenting this morning a report on 29 cases, which is one more than what was on the ministry's list, which is 28. So distinguished ladies and gentlemen, I want to at this stage invite my sister, Commissioner of Police, Madam Faustina Ajewa Kodua and Kofi, to give us the full report on these cases. Thank you so much.
Thank you, sir. Thank you very much. Should I come this way? Because... Oh, okay.
Honorable Chair, please permit me to stand on the existing protocol already established to present to you the state of investigation into alleged attacks on journalists to you. Our scope is to update you on the 28 alleged cases, which is now 27, of attacks on journalists spanning the period 2022 to mid-2023. Honorable Chair, before I go into the substantive matter, please permit me to share with you some of the basic things that we do when we start investigations, or the processes that we go through when we are doing investigations. Honorable Chair, we always receive complaints from our complainants. And after receiving the complaints, we interview the complainants and take statement from them. After taking the statement from them, depending on the case, if we have other witnesses, we also take statement from them. When there's a physical abuse or assault, we issue medical form. And even if you complain of something that we cannot even see physically, we actually issue a medical form to you to go to hospital for the doctors to actually give us a report as to the condition. We also visit crime scenes when there's a need to visit the crime scene. After visiting the crime scene and analyzing the results, we normally do arrest. And here I must say that at times we will do the arrest before we even start the case, depending on the nature of the case. For instance, if the person is running away from the country and the person is at the airport, we cannot wait to go through all these things before we do the arrest. So we normally arrest before we start going through all these processes. Yes, when we arrest the suspects, we actually interrogate them and take statement from them and their witnesses, if any. We also need the cooperation of the parties, both the suspects and then the complainants. We actually need them to support us in our cases because some of the information that we work on will come from our parties, especially our complainants, who are always our principal witnesses. After investigations, and if there is sufficient evidence to go to court, we normally prepare our dockets and go to court, or we prepare the dockets and send it to AG's office for advice. Mr. Chair, we also have some exceptions. At times, we don't have complainants in our case, and I want us to actually take note of this. We can always do police investigations without complainants. And some of the examples are that when we see videos of persons committing offenses or having footages of persons committing crimes on our social medias, and if you intercept, we actually initiate investigations into those cases. At times when the crimes are committed before police officers, we also investigate those cases without looking for a complainant. So these are some of the exceptions that are actually we actually investigate those cases when we don't have suspects or complainants in those cases. And, Mr. Chair, I want to come to the substantive issue, which is the subject matter of this presentation, and the responses that we are giving to your request is as follows, or we want to categorize them into two: the number of cases reported to police and the number of cases that we cannot confirm as cases reported to police. As my boss said, we received 28, and in the course of our compilation, we noticed that there are indeed 27, not 28. And the number of cases that were reported to police were 10 cases and 17 unreported or unconfirmed cases. So we want to deal with the number of cases that were reported to police. In fact, the 10 cases that were reported to police, 5 are under investigations, and 5 have been concluded. We've done with those cases, whether they went to court or we actually closed the cases from the police. And we will tell you the circumstances under which those things were done. Yes, the 10 cases that were reported to us, and they are still under investigations. We have one from, please permit me, I want to read from my slide. We have one, Swala Abdul Wahab, Radio Upper West in Wa. That case happened on the 23rd of June 2023. Swala Abdul Wahab, a journalist of Radio Upper West, reported a case of assault at the regional CID headquarters in Wa. The complainant disclosed that on the 29th of June 2023, he boarded a commercial vehicle with registration number AW 7509-13 heading towards Bolgatanga for a workshop, and upon reaching narrow immigration checkpoint, the vehicle was stopped for inspection, during which he got down to use the washroom. That he picked a buta which belonged to the immigration officers to use, but a misunderstanding ensued between him and the officers on duty at the checkpoint as to exact place to urinate. And in the process, one of the officers removed his sidearm and allegedly threatened to shoot him with it. This case is still under investigation, and we are almost done with the case. So we will be preparing the case. That the status is being prepared to send to AG's office for advice. Cases of this nature, you don't have to sit at the police station and then do your own things. We need to send it to AG's office for advice. So that is what we are about to do. And then another case is Ajato, Radio Big Ada. I'm sure everybody is aware of this case. On the 13th January 2022, at 11:30 hours, Koli Ajato, age 41, a staff of Radio Ada, Big Ada, accompanied by Raphael Amehu of same address, called at the station, and the former with a visible marks of assault, complained of bodily pains. He reported that on same day about 11:30 hours, a group of men numbering about 20 and wearing nose masks stormed the radio station, assaulted him and his colleagues, and caused damage to some studio equipment. The case is still under investigation, and here I must say that when we say that a case is under investigation, we have stages of investigation. So we want to assure you that this case is at a stage where we are comfortable, and very soon you'll hear from us. Abraham, we also have Abraham Anampasa, PAD FM, On the 6th July 2020, Abraham Anampaksa, forgive me if the name is not pronounced, a journalist with Pad FM based in Damango, did a story on suspects at Abia Anoma, then Damango constituency New Patriotic Party deputy organizer. Later in the day, the suspect together with others met the journalist on his way home. After close of work at about 15:00 hours, attacked and assaulted him. Consequently, the journalist sustained injuries on his head and damage was caused to his tablet and phone. The case was reported at the regional CID headquarters, Damango, for investigations. The case is still under investigation. Eric Nana Jetua, Connect FM, Takrady. On 3rd February 2022, the Charlie SWAT team from Accra arrested to the regional CID 2nd D suspect Eric Jetua with a black Huawei 9 phone. That's while the team was on duty within the metropolis and whilst having their lunch at God is Love, Choba, one of the officers spotted the suspect hiding in an obscured place, taking photographs of the police officers and their vehicle, which had some suspects on board. The police demanded for the said mobile phone used in taking the picture, but Eric refused to hand it over, hence his arrest. Subject was later identified as a journalist with Connect FM in Takrady. He was released on police enquiry bail and his phone was handed over to him. Case under investigation. Here I must say that when we noticed that he's a journalist, we decided to bail him and also hand over his phone, which was retrieved from him to him that same day. On the 3rd of, another one is Prince Akwa, Ghana News Agency. On the 3rd May 2022, at about 1:45 p.m., Prince Akwa, a journalist, reported at the Ajun police station that on 2nd May 2022, at about 1 p.m., he was covering the Ajumakun NPP constituency executives election at the University of Education, Winneba, Ajumakun campus. And in the course of that, some delegates of the party he did not know but could be identified when seen, attacked, bullied, and beat him up without any due cause. The complainant stopped pursuing the case despite numerous calls from police to assist identifying the culprits for arrest and necessary action. The complainant has failed, that's the status of the case. The complainant has failed to show up to assist in investigations. Eric Blessing Eshon. Yes, these are the concluded cases. So we've dealt with the 5 cases under investigations, and then these are those that we've been able to conclude, either sending to court or dealing with it at the police station. On the 16th May 2022, in fact, the first one is Blessings Eshon, alias Osofo Blessing, Nana Jefo, Benya FM. On the 16th of May 2023, at 8 p.m., the complainant, Eric Blessing Eshon, presenter at Brenya FM, and the second complainant, they are all at Elmina. So the names are there. They all came to police to make a complaint that they were having a program called Afarikua, a program for fishermen and farmers between 7 p.m. and commenting on the issues of how some fishermen were not getting premise fuel for fishing while others without canoes rather get fuel. The accused persons, Isaac Opari Ekins, alias Jache, Michelle Asabre and Anthony Eshen, alias Kung Fu, went to the studio, disorganized the studio, and then assaulted the complainants for mentioning their names in the program. The accused persons were arrested on the same day and charged for unlawful entry, conspiracy to commit crime, and unlawful damage and assault. They were arraigned before Circuit Court 1 Cape Coast, and the case went for full trial, and the accused persons were acquitted and discharged. On the 13th May 2022, the Tema Regional Police Command received a petition from Dr. Daniel Macaulay, alias McDan, the CEO of Electrochem Ghana Limited, through Bernard Colley, his administrator, to the effect that on the 8th of May 2022, accused Noah Na Dame of Adan Radio published false news about him, that's Daniel Macaulay, on his Facebook wall. That the news posted attached the photograph of Dr. Daniel Macaulay, thereby putting his life in danger without the community where his company undertakes his projects. The status of the case: the accused died in the course of his trial. On the 25th September 2023, a copy of his burial certificate was filed at the court. Godfred Edu Asante, alias Kwabena Asante, German Radio. On the 11th July 2023 at about 10 a.m., Edu Godfred Asante, a morning show of German Radio, Drobo, accompanied by Alaji Gausu and Godfred Asa, sorry, this is not properly this. Let me see. Gasus Asa, both of the same radio station, called at the named station and reported that on the same day at about 9:20 a.m., whilst on air doing morning show program dubbed Anopa Bosu, the municipal chief executive of German South Municipal Assembly, Andrews Bediakun, walked into the studio to respond to some allegations which were being discussed. In the process, Edinkra Kusi Steven, Nana Boatina Pew, Peter Asari, and a Kome and a Suo, who accompanied the MCE, attacked them at the studio without any good reason. And the case docket has been closed as settled. Honorable Minister, if you say a case is settled, it means the complainants and the suspects, that's not at the police station. They do their own things, and then the complainant will come back to police and then tell them that the case has been settled. And they will bring a withdrawal letter to withdraw the case. And here, this is what's actually happened. Honorable Chair, this is one of the cases that on our own, we also saw that it was reported to us and it has been dealt with. And we want to share with you, on the 3rd of May 2023, Abubakar Sadiq, a journalist at Dagbon radio station in Temali, reported a case of assault and threat of death against suspect Idrusu Hadi and Mumuni Oxman. The complainant indicated that the suspects entered the studio or the radio station whilst he was hosting a program and assaulted him and fled. The status: in May 8, 2023, suspects were arrested for investigation. And on the 10th of May 2023, suspects were formally charged with the offenses of conspiracy to commit crime, to wit assault, unlawful entry, and threat of death. They were arraigned before the Tamale District Court, where they pleaded guilty to all the charges and were convicted on their own plea to a fine of 300 penalty units each, equivalent to 3,600, or in default, serve custodial sentences of 18 months each in hard labor. Fines were paid by convicts. Honorable Chair, we also have another one. Solomon Amankwa, Ahoto FM Takradi. On the 3rd January 2022, at Secondary Police Barracks, around the hours of 0300, Solomon Amankwa, a sports journalist at Ahoto FM Takradi, was arrested to the Secondary Takradi station. Solomon Amankwa was spotted with 3 others holding a torchlight and holding a torchlight and allegedly trying to break into and steal from a parked vehicle within the Secondary Police Barracks. In the course of arresting them, he resisted arrest, which led to a scuffle between the two. As a result, he sustained a cut on the mouth. The status of the case: duplicate case docket was sent to the AG's office for study and advice, and the Attorney General advised against prosecution of the journalist. Honorable Chair, we also have unconfirmed cases that we want to share with you. The first one happened, everything is based on the list that you actually presented to police for us to respond. The first one is during Ampofu, GBC, and it happened in December 2020. The case was not reported to police, but GJ. So that case was not reported to police. January 2021, Phyllis John Corte, Metro TV. That case was not reported to police. And we also have one Ahmed Abubakar, Xylophone FM, station shut down, no traces. And this case was not also reported to the police. We've checked our booths, our records. There's nothing to indicate that it was reported. We actually wanted to do further checks, but the FM station has been shut down. Caleb Kuda, Zok Abu, what is it, Zoe? Oh, so sorry, I can't see it from here. And then Abu, and then Bedu. Oh, it's the same name, sorry. Yes, City FM. And that one, a case was not reported to police, was handled by a committee. We also have November 2021, in Shraba Parkwesi Simpson, Connect FM. No confirmation of the case being reported to police. And then December 2021, Ohineba Buama, Benny, Power FM. No confirmation that that case was reported to us. We also have Amenga Etigo, freelance. That case was also not reported to police, and it happened in February 2022. Derek Adote, that one May 2022, Metro TV. That case was also not reported to police. May 2023, Augustine Ahiagbo, Angel FM, no traces of complaints received by police. We also have Nicholas Osei Owusu, May 2023. The case was not reported to police, but Ghana Journalists Association. December 2020, Evans Mensah, Winston Amoa, Philip Osei Bonsu, Gifty Ando Apia, and then Israel Lai. No confirmation that the case was reported to police. We also have December 2020, Pius Kwame Esiedu, newswatchghana.com. No confirmation that the case was reported to police. We have Lord Eduasari Sandra Obribia, GhanaWeb.com. No traces at the police station. Honorable Chair, we also have Osei Kwadwo from Pure FM. That one happened, the incident happened December 2020. That one too, police cannot confirm that it was reported to us. January 2020, Magbadara, Romanus, Tizar FM. That one too, police cannot confirm that it was reported to us. We have February 2022, Kwabena Bobie Ansa, Accra FM. That one too, the case was not reported to police. We cannot confirm, actually, that it was reported to us. March 2022, Michael Edu, Media Foundation for West Africa. No confirmation that the case was reported to police. We also have Captain Smart of Onia FM. That one too happened in June 2023. No confirmation that the case was reported to police. Honorable Chair, after going through all the 10 cases that we actually handled, we have some observations that we would like to share with you. The first observation was in our course of investigation. Okay, some observations were made, and these are some of the alleged attacks did not occur in the line of duty as journalists. So here we want to say that it was not in the course of doing their journalism that those offenses occurred. And then the second one is, even while on duty as journalists, we also noticed that some of them were not having any identification to indicate that they are indeed journalists. We also observed that not all of the cases were reported to police for investigations. And here we also want to say that even though they were reported to their mother associations, at least the association should have taken it up to report those cases to police. So, for example, out of the 28 cases of alleged attacks on journalists cited on the ministry's list, only 10 of them were reported to police. So we want to put it on record that these are the cases that we can confirm that they were reported to police. I'm not done yet. Thank you very much. Thank you very much. So bringing this into okay, so to conclude on this, we want to assure this honorable house that indeed we are in it together. Police service or the police administration, we are committed in ensuring your safety at all times. And we also want to share with you that all the cases that were reported and under investigations, we are going to follow them through to its or their logical conclusions. We also want to plead with you or urge you to always report cases of attacks and other crimes to the nearest police stations for us to take the necessary actions. And above all, what we want to plead with you is that after the cases have been reported, we humbly suggest that you collaborate with the police to get the perpetrators and to also ensure that we get to the bottom of the cases. This is what we want to plead with you, because most of the times the cases will be reported, but you call the complainants, they don't normally show up. They say, oh, I'm busy, I'm going to do this, I'm going to do that. But he who alleges must, yes. So once you have reported a case to the police, kindly have the time to also support us or collaborate with us to do effective investigations and get the perpetrators to book. This is our plea. And here ends our presentation. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much. Please, let's have our high table reconvene. We go into the open forum. And thank you all for being patient and following. I was actually expecting that journalists will fill this room. That's commentary that you must note, correct? You should expect that journalists will fill these seats, but we have not. Now, as we listened, some of us could identify certain gaps, but this is the forum where those will be discussed. You will also have the opportunity to make some of your comments, because on the 13th of July, 2021, the Multimedia Group wrote a formal petition against the threat against Erastus Asaridonko, and that was submitted to the police at the police headquarters. The Erastus was invited. I, as his lawyer, led him there for the processes to commence. It was taken to Kumasi first and then forwarded to Accra. So if within the police headquarters they are unable to trace and confirm this, that for me is a problem. But we all must acknowledge one thing, which we continue to tell journalists. When the attack happens, or the criminal offense happens, your first thing is not talking in the media. That's not your first thing. So many people don't report. So who do you blame about that? You talk and talk and talk and you don't report. What do you expect to happen? All right, thank you very much. The GIBA president, I acknowledged him. Cecil Sunkwa Mills, thank you. Gloria Haji is also here from the GIBA. As for the National Media Commission, it looks like the whole house is here. I'm seeing almost like the whole National Media Commission, Gabriel Bosompim, Alex, Paula, everybody else appears to be here. Thank you also very much. Just spotted a mentor, the Venerable Kweku Sechiado. Thank you very much for making time to join us here. Suleiman Abrahima. Thank you so very much. Kobi Asma. Okay, still going to the NMC. I'm saying they are all here. Thank you very much. Now, in this forum, we will urge that as much as possible, the comments will be incisive and brief so that we can have as many people as possible to also participate. Remember, the major focus is on the fourth pillar, and a very important mechanism or committee such as this one should be able to help us sufficiently. I will at this point perhaps maybe begin by inviting some preliminary comments by way of feedback and sharing of knowledge, which is part of the reason for this meeting, for us to hear from the sector minister. I know that he would wish that this is not the way we do it, but it is important. Please, Mr. Kujo Ponkruma.
Something, thank you. And I think you are right. I am an observer, observing what is being presented to us. I think as a police commissioner, Awini mentioned earlier, we've been at the heels of the police service for months, working with them to try and get some of these matters to a resolution and to get updates on them. The IGP himself has been very, very, very supportive and interested, and it is the months of work that have culminated in these reports, which they are openly sharing with us. I am not aware anywhere in Africa where this kind of thing is
taking place, or I mean, even in any other part of the world. But I think it's a commitment of all of you, the stakeholders. That's what's making it possible. So for me, I want to listen in. There are questions that I have, but I think other people have those questions. I want to hear those questions come up. I want to hear the answers from Police CID. The Chief Justice's representative is here. There are questions about the severity of sanctions, even for cases that get to the prosecution level. So I won't speak much. I want to follow, and then later I'll make my concluding remarks.
Thank you. Thank you very much. Rebecca Epe represents the Ghana Journalists Association. She's the Public Affairs Director, Officer, and represents the President. Please, can you hand the microphone to her so that at least we can begin to hear? Yes, from you. Please hand the microphone to her. So there are reports that are sent to you, but you don't report to the police. So we are seeing many cases. We're hearing them sensational. We talk about it. Everybody feels emotional about it. And we say, you are killing journalists. You are doing wrong to them. And yet you don't report them. Yeah, so let's hear from you.
Okay. Good morning. Good morning. Honorable Minister, Chairman, National Media Commission, representatives of the Chief Justice, and then Madam representing the CID here. Sorry, I lost a bit of my voice, so I'm not going to talk very much, but I'm here representing the President of the Ghana Journalists Association, Mr. Albert Jumfor, and I bring you greetings from him as well. GJ is happy to be part of this mechanism, which is to ensure that we seek accountability and also safety for journalists, which is very critical to freedom of expression. And we want to thank the Ghana Police Service for the diligence and the work, particularly just a little feedback, as Mr. Ayenini said. It's a concern that a lot of these cases were not reported to the Ghana Police Service. For me, it's a concern because I think it tells us two things. One is that for those of us from the coordinating in terms of media, we need to do a bit more work to ensure that our people realize that they need to report cases. And from the police side, I don't know, I know that the OSP picks up cases and investigates, but I'm seeing and hearing that from the police side you actually have to report. So I think that from the police side they'll have to do a bit more education and advocacy so that we all know that we must report the cases so that these cases are actually picked up and thoroughly investigated, and we all come to a conclusion. Fundamentally, I also picked up that the fundamental issue has to do with access to information. A lot of the times these journalists are seeking information. So having said that, let me also point out just one thing in case I don't have the opportunity to talk. An issue that has come to the table of the Ghana Journalists Association and for journalists in general, the issue about centralization of information, because we believe that the whole issue is about journalists get information and information get out to the public. Chapter 12 of our Constitution has freedom of information, and we believe that is why we are all gathered here. So I would like to send an appeal from the GJA to the Ghana Police Service to look at the issue of centralization of information. We believe that the regions and the various districts where journalists are will need to get information at that level in order to facilitate the issue of freedom of expression and information flow. So that is one of the concerns that we would like to put across. I think I would end my remarks for now. Thank you very much for the opportunity.
But generally, would you say that this mechanism is essential and effective in assisting in ensuring the safety of journalists? We are here to validate.
Okay. Yeah, Samson, I mean, if you do not have the opportunity to look at your work, there is a problem. But this platform is an opportunity. But I think that would have to go into more of working sessions to be able to look more at the report and look at it critically instead of just, a one-time feedback. It's a document. We have to go back to our various I'll say the NMC, the GJA, PRINPAG, and the others to look critically at the document and then feedback. But this step is good. We've gotten a report. We have to go back, look at the report. Having said that, I think you've drawn my attention, you've drawn my mind to one thing. One of the issues the scope in terms of a report like, or an issue like Ahmed Swale will come to the mind of journalists. What about that case? I'm talking about that because of scope, because we know it's just some few years. Why wasn't that part of this report?
All right.
Scope. So
okay.
I would like to know more about that.
Thank you very much. And
Thank
I'm
you.
deliberately bringing on members of the high table, some of them, and setting specific people right here in our midst because of their position as stakeholders. And then we're opening up. Everybody else can put their hand up and ask a question. So, like in Chi, they say menin sound, but President of the Independent Broadcasters Association, Mr. Sunkwame, having followed what has happened, and for yourself, being part of this coordinated mechanism, what's your level of satisfaction in discovering this very disturbing situation? I think that is very disturbing, that the things happen, we shout and talk about them, but they don't get reported.
Yeah, thank you. I think to start, I think this is a very good initiative, and I think it's timely. We in a conversation with the IGP when that issue happened in Takrady, we asked that there should be some conversation mechanism between the media fraternity, the police, and then coming from either the AG or the judiciary, so we can have that conversation together, because there was a gap in activity and we didn't have an idea how far things were going. The police probably also may not know things of high concern to us, and then some of these gaps would have been closed. But I think this is a start. But I think there's a kind of conversation I would say we can have about at least if we can have it 4 times a year of this grouping, and then we can look at the cases and how it's moving. Then it takes away a lot of questions about what is happening. With the report, of course, it's disturbing, and that cases are not reported, but it is also a point of education. Now we have emphasized that all these things must be reported, and we can track and see. Maybe it was reported because as you were going, I was going through some lists. Some names I saw did not appear, and but we need to tie all this together. So the other thing was, for my recommendation, we also need to look at who must be the lead agency to put this kind of forum together. Okay, I don't know if it falls at the doorstep of the NMC that should actually be driving this agenda for the media fraternity to come together. But it's good that it has started, but we can take it from there, and then we have more closer conversations. One of the concerns is also the duration, but I know with police work, they also know, but for us, we would wish it is timely. You see, when it is timely, and then I think when I come to the judiciary, when the punishment is deterrent enough, it actually sends the right message to both parties, irrespective of who is wrong. And that takes us back to the recent UTV invasion. Okay, the commentary that came out from a lot of people that the fine was quite meager. They thought it was not punitive enough. Yes, deterrent wasn't deterrent enough. But one of the things we said was that the judge would depend on the charges that are presented. But then we look at the charges. Now, those people they did a number of things in that case that we didn't see on the charge sheet. And you find there was another case that Madam mentioned in her report, which showed unlawful entry. There were a number of things that happened in the similar way for the UTV case. But in the UTV case, we don't know why we saw very few and subtle charges. And so it reflected on the punishment. What we want to see is that we're getting into election. It will come and it will pass. But this is how we nip it in the bud, if it's deterrent enough. And then I bet you if it's done, the police will also have a lot more peace, because people would see that if I do this, I mean, it will go. So those are some of the comments that we made.
Right, thank you. But something pops us immediately, that it does appear that immediately you will need to establish a way to validate the list, and all the names you say have not appeared also put together and handed to them. But in her presentation, there's a big question that comes up to me, because out of 28, 27, you have 10 that you have worked on. These 10 appear to be those that were reported. But she had spoken to us about the exceptional situations where they don't require a report and they step in. So at least the 18 others or 17 others,
stepped in.
I expected her to tell us that at least there was one or two that they had to initiate on their own. But to simply say they were not reported and therefore they are off the radar, for me is a concern. So from the GIBA president, please, can we take the microphone to Suleiman Abrahima? They have been collating the list of assaults over the years. Media Foundation for West Africa, between February and March, February 2018, March 2019, you collated 22 assaults. Unfortunately, the security topped the list. Security and party officials. She mentioned one of those cases where it was a party official who was doing that. What do you say about the fourth pillar for the protection of journalists and the work so far?
Well, thank you very much. Permit me to stand on existing protocols. And I want to start by commending the Minister for Information, the Ministry of Information, and of course the NMC for this initiative. Over time, there have been legitimate concerns about the deteriorating state of press freedom and media freedom in Ghana. And I think that what we can do is to respond appropriately. And I see this as one of the responses that I think would go a long way to help. Indeed, I work across West Africa, and by that work I get to intervene and engage in a number of international processes. And I would want to say that, as the minister perhaps said, maybe this will be a first, and it would be something that perhaps we would share with other stakeholders in other countries where we work, so that beyond just developing mechanisms which are on paper, there could be practical actions that will be taken such as this. So this, for me, is a novelty that is worth commending, and kudos to all those who are part of it. Now, I think that going forward, one of the ways of looking at it is not perhaps just having the police that is doing a great job being here to account to us, because the comprehensive mechanism on safety of journalists that has been adopted globally imposes a responsibility on nearly every stakeholder. Because we are here talking about what the police have done. But, for example, GIBA, the Independent Broadcasters Association, what have they also been doing to protect the safety of their employees and their members? Are journalists working within the GIBA member stations well identified? Do they have protective gear? is it not strange that a program will be going on in the studios of UTV, which is not even on the ground floor, and yet people can climb all the way and get into the studio? What has been the responsibility of the owner, and to what extent have they also taken steps to protect their journalists? The judiciary also have a responsibility. In fact, there is one case that happened in the 2020 elections. In fact, the allegation is that the guy was shot by someone who is with national security working at the presidency. The matter was taken to court, and for almost 2-3 years now, we are told the judge is sick, and therefore the guy is living with his fate, bedridden almost every time, and nobody is listening to him. So the next time we convene like this, I think it is also important to hear from the judiciary. What steps are they also taking on matters related to the safety of journalists that are brought to them? The other thing is even media organizations themselves, and the question about whether they report the incidents or not. And we have had a personal case where some 3 journalists at Media General, were abused. I think it was MPP or NDC headquarters. We then decided to petition the police, filed a formal petition. This is about 4 or 5 years ago. Went to the police headquarters, and we are told that, look, the people that you are fighting for themselves have not reported the matter. And we can only follow through this matter if the victims or the folks who are involved are themselves interested. 2014, there was this incident involving Standogbe and a journalist at GBC. The matter, was all over, but it was never reported to the police, and therefore the police perhaps couldn't have just on their own stepped in. The other thing is also the state, in terms of the state in the context of the government directly, not the police, and his own actions, any actions when it comes to the safety of journalists. And that perhaps is maybe more of the Attorney General, because this Noah Adame case, Noah Adame, who unfortunately passed away, and the harassment that he went through, and we know who, it involved a case, Magdan, Electrochem, and so on and so forth. This was a case of defamation, reported, the matter was ongoing, the guy was detained for 2 weeks, and before we realized, it became the Republic versus Noah Adame. And the question was, how does a case of somebody that a businessman says he said something which is defamatory of me, how did that become a case of the Republic versus Noah Adame? And that for me is also where the Attorney General sometimes, or as we go along, may also have to come in. So I look forward to future encounters like this, where it wouldn't just be the police rendering accounts. GIBA would have to tell us what they are doing for their members when it comes to safety. The GJA, the NMC, CSOs like Media Foundation for West Africa, of course the police, and then the other agencies, including the UN agencies, because my friend Hamid from UNESCO is here. It's a comprehensive mechanism developed by UNESCO, and UNESCO and the UN agencies in the country have a responsibility on what steps they have also taken, what resources have been made available to build capacity of journalists and media organizations when it comes to safety of journalists. And so that would be my comment. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much. Please, if you have any remarks, comments, questions that you want to, please, there's a hand over there. Yes, there's a hand over there. And Suleimana refers to the Newswatch journalist who was allegedly, sometimes it's difficult to say allegedly, but I'm a lawyer, I know to say that better, allegedly shot by Collins Kweku, the National Security Operative, Kola. That's Kwame, Pius Siedu Kwame. So GJA, again, GIBA, what can we be told about that? What have you done? That's one of your members. Yes, please, your question.
Okay, my name is Dominic Nology. I'm the national organizer of the Ghana Journalists Association. I must say, like other speakers alluded to, this is a novelty. It's something that we've not seen in this country before, and maybe in West Africa, engaging with colleague journalists, I've not had people saying that they've had a forum like this, or the police and stakeholders meeting to have a discussion on something that is important like this for us as journalists. So we commend the ministry, the National Media Commission for the initiative. But I must say that it is very, very important for us to validate what the police is presenting, because we've also been monitoring at the GGA levels, and some of the names that have been mentioned, the cases have been actually reported to the police. For example, Augustine Ahiabo's case in Ashaman, the case was reported to the Ashaman Police Command, the district police station, and it followed. The police referred the case to ADR, and they went through the process. So it's very strange for us to hear that that case was not reported. I want to find out from the police, do they have a system where if a case is reported, for example, in Ashaman, it can reflect in their system in Accra, where they don't need to maybe write a letter from there referring the case to the headquarters for them to, how do they track all that? Because that will help us to have a comprehensive understanding of how they are monitoring the situation. My question goes to the minister. What's the reason behind selecting the period 2022 to 2023? There have been a number of cases where that we know of. Why have we decided to do the letter you wrote to the police referring them to do just 2022, 2023? Why do we decide to do that?
All right, thank you very much. Let me recognize the presence of the Honorable Oboshi Sai Kofi. Thank you very much for making time to join us. Yes, whose hand is up again? There are journalists in this room, and this is about you and your safety. Yes, right. Centralization of information. Rebecca spoke about that earlier.
Yes, Madam, good morning, and good morning to you all. You did mention that some, not in the line of their duty, if they go off their way to do something, they're not, I don't know whether you cannot refer to them as journalists. For instance, if a judge decides to go to his farm or her farm, and then some people go and kill him or her, is she still a judge or not? Because as a journalist, you must always sort of track. It doesn't matter whether you have the ID on. Sometimes you may forget your ID in your house, and you are still a journalist. So I want that clarification, so that we know when, how, and where to behave like journalists.
Right. So that's to give you indication. If you said they were attacked whilst they were not in the course of duty as journalists, does that mean that you are separating those from the list of journalists who have been attacked? Because like Ameswale's case, he didn't have to sit in his office working to be attacked. And if people actually target you, they are no fools. They won't come to where you're working. They will waylay you and harm you. I think that's the issue. But they can make a distinction between that and people who are journalists but committing fraud, committing pure crime and being dealt with. You know, some of us have had the occasion to talk about that before, and we have been attacked. When journalists have committed fraudulent acts and they are picked up, and we have to talk about the matter as if they are doing the work of journalism and suffering that. But that was clear fraud. Yes, please, any more? Yes, the chairman of the NMC, Yabuedwa Ebuafo. But there's a hand here. Can we take that first? Yes. Please, UNESCO. Please sit where you are. Right.
Thank you very much. UNESCO and the UN family is committed to the coordinated mechanism. I'm here to share some information regarding what UNESCO is doing to support the third pillar. For the past 2 years, UNESCO has been training judges in the country. We've done almost 40 judges. We've trained them on freedom of expression and safety of journalists. A thorough training is normally 3 days. And then also, we are about to sign a contract or MOU with JTI, where JTI will become the center for the training of journalists on the subjects, freedom of expression and safety of journalists. And also upcoming is prosecutors, because during the training, the feedback is that there's a problem with prosecutors. So we will also be extending training to prosecutors as well. And then police officers have been selected from the police academies to do TOT in Kenya. They are back, and hopefully next year that training too will be done with the police. So we're looking at the judiciary, the prosecutors, and the police, because you realize that when you don't work with all these three arms, you might be working in vain. And also, I want to congratulate the minister for this initiative, because we think this is long overdue, but better late than none. This should become an annual affair where we all meet and then discuss what we're doing regarding the safety of journalists. Thank you.
Thank you. He mentioned JTI, that's Judicial Training Institute, that they have been working with to train judges